Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Jamuna Tira Vana Chari Jamuna Tira Vana Chari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Pribhrajakasharistata Sata Shri Shamad His Divine Grace Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sega Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kundigiri Gaurvadhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Jainitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, continuing with the Nectar of Instruction, text 4. It is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:107, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadhi Shuddha Chitte Karaye Udai. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. Since Krishna consciousness is inherent in every living entity, everyone should be given a chance to hear about Krishna. Simply by hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam, one's heart is directly purified, and one's original Krishna consciousness is immediately awakened. Krishna consciousness is not artificially imposed on the heart. It is already there. When one chants the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the heart is cleansed of all mundane contamination. In the first stanza of his Sri Shikshastaka, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, oh, we were reading this, weren't we? Yeah, I guess up to here. Cheto Darpanamarjanam Baba Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Anandam Hurivardhanam Pratiparam Purnam Ritaswadanam Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Not only is the chanter of the Mahamantra purified, but the heart of anyone who happens to hear the transcendental vibration of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is also cleansed. Even the souls embodied in lower animals, insects, trees, and other species of life also become purified and prepared to become fully Krishna conscious simply by hearing the transcendental vibration. This was explained by Thakur Haridas when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from him how living entities lower than human beings can be delivered from material bondage. Haridas Thakur said that the chanting of the holy names is so powerful that even if one chants in the remotest parts of the jungle, the trees and animals will all advance in Krishna consciousness simply by hearing the vibration. This was actually proved by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself when he passed through the forest of Jharkhand. At that time, the tigers, snakes, deers, and all other animals abandoned their natural animosity and began chanting and dancing in Sankirtana. Of course, we cannot imitate the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but we should follow in his footsteps. We are not powerful enough to enchant the lower animals, such as tigers, snakes, cats, and dogs, or entice them to dance. But by chanting the holy names of the Lord, we can actually convert many people throughout the world to Krishna consciousness. Contributing or distributing the holy name of the Lord is a sublime example of contributing or giving charity, the Dadati principle. By the same token, one must also follow the Pratigrinati principle and be willing and ready to receive the transcendental gift. One should inquire about the Krishna consciousness movement and open his mind in order to understand the situation of this material world. Thus, the Guhyam Akiti Prichati principles can be served. So the Krishna consciousness is just a natural, inherent part of the living entity's consciousness. But due to being distracted by the idea that we can gain something by simply acknowledging the benefits gained from the transformation of Krishna's energy through endeavor, then we get distracted from this natural position. So then it's just a matter of awakening what's already there. Because the living entity will naturally, when they are in the liberated platform, they understand the position of the Supreme. They understand the relationship that in that He's the Supreme, we're part and parcel, and therefore there's from the Lord then is coming this higher appreciation. But it's only by the association of devotees that then we take it further on to developing that natural love for Krishna. Otherwise, one will just appreciate God's position, but one will not take it actually through to Krishna consciousness. So the inherent God consciousness is there, and the natural nature to have that affection for the Lord. But that comes by association. So inherently that we're God conscious, that is there. But to develop prema, which is the natural also progression, that will come by associating with devotees. Therefore, the importance of this guhyam akiti prichati, that we are hearing about Krishna and inquiring about Krishna, and then trying to apply that in our life, because that will bring us then to that higher principle. Otherwise, being God conscious, that's natural. And but actually coming to the position where we move forward into that favorable service towards Krishna, that will come in the proper association. So that's the whole idea of the Lord Chaitanya's mission, is how to invite people, how to expose people to the Krishna consciousness so they come back to their natural God-conscious position and they continue on and to come to the platform of prema. So it's the movement's all about this, how to expose people to this whole process of dadati, prati, grinati. Right? All these different 6 exchanges, because as Prabhupada mentions, even on the material platform, these 6 exchanges are necessary. And so, why? Because those are the natural activities of living entities. Right? So now, and of all the natural activities of living entities, then being God conscious is the normal situation, the standard situation. And then within this standard situation, then actually having affection for the Lord, then that would be the perfect, the platform that one can therefore eternally remain at, right? Simply being God conscious won't be enough, because that's technically the neutral state, right? Because then we're just recognizing the facts. But to move forward into the positive, that we have affection for the Lord, that's then gained from the association of devotees. Does that make sense? That's why then all these aspects, like let's say we're talking about the universal form and saying this is a beginning stage. Because it may be, in one sense, advanced compared to the consciousness that we may be having from the mundane platform. But when it comes to actual spiritual life, it's not the advanced position. Is being able to appreciate the Lord, how He's in everything, how He's connected with everything. That's a that's standard for the living entity on the platform of knowledge. But to have that affection for the Lord, then that's a step further. So we'll say that's the actual advanced position. Does that make sense? Just like you may know who's the prime minister of the country, and it's a fact, and so everyone in the country may know that. But to have an interest, to have a relationship with that person, that's another thing. You understand? So for the living entity to be God conscious, that's standard. But to actually have an interest and attraction to Krishna, so that we take up that that affection for the Lord, that's where, that will be, you can say, the positive natural position. Right? The jiva is tatastha, that neutral between the internal and external potency. That's just, that's the, that's the standard manifestation, right? But the natural position is to be in, have that affection for the Lord, express that, because being in the neutral, you have to go one way or the other. So you can't remain in the neutral place. It's not some place that you can just stick. One has to move forward. So we see is that those who try to be God conscious only of the eternal aspect of the Lord, then that position will be temporary, because there's not enough there to maintain the personal nature of the soul, right? Because there's activity and there is ananda is tasted when there's interaction, right? It's not a position that we would consider technically positive. It's just not negative. It's just the you could say the definition of the jiva, right? Just that neutral position. But moving forward into a positive relationship, that then takes on a quality that it actually addresses all the aspects of the living entity. Because the Lord's a person, and we're individuals as persons, so that interaction. See, because Krishna is independent. So for him to just exist in the principle of that neutral state, for him, he can do that because he is existence, and he will always be. But for us, our existence is dependent upon the Lord and these greater energies. So if we take up that position of appreciating the personal, then we can move forward. You understand? Because Krishna, where he's just tasting that aspect of existence, then we're not manifest. We exist, but we're not manifest. So, but that taste, though is very nice, it's not as great as personal interaction. Therefore, Krishna expands his energy, and then in the loving relationships interacts with the devotees. That's a much greater, because the aspect of existence, that's just a constant, unchanging experience. And so for the masculine principle, they can exist in that position. But the feminine principle can't. Feminine means it always has to be expanding, it always has to be developing. That's the nature. Therefore, we as jivas, which is energy, it has to expand. So that means it can only do that in relationship. And only when Krishna is interested in relationship are we manifest. So it's not that there is a state where we're manifest and there is no interaction. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, therefore, even it's the natural to be God conscious, it's not a state that we can just remain at unless that God consciousness includes that personal interaction with the Lord based on affection. Then that platform of God consciousness, that we can then eternally remain on. But just to simply be conscious but not be interested in a relationship, we can't remain there. And so we see is that the those in Shantaras, they're taking that position of God consciousness forward to prema. So there is the appreciation of the person as Bhagavan. Otherwise, if it's only as Brahman and Paramatma, they can't remain at that position, like the yogis and the impersonalists. So they've actually brought it forward to appreciating the person and his relationships and interaction with the devotees. Does that make sense? So it's come to that position, though they themselves may not be so dynamically involved in that way. But they're appreciating. So, does that work? Yes. That will lead to that neutral state of liberation. But because when you get to the liberated state, there's no conditioning anymore. And then being in that liberated state, when the soul does want to be active, because as we said, the soul can't remain in that neutral state, then being liberated, then remembering the Lord. I mean, because then if you look at it, remembrance of the Lord is going to be much more interesting than remembrance of the previous experience in the material world. And so that remembrance of the Lord, since now there's nothing mundane to cause that inimical position, one will be neutral and one will appreciate. So then one will move forward from there to Vaikuntha. So that's why the demons that are killed by Krishna, they merge into the Brahman, but then they will move forward at some point to their relationship with the Lord. But they'll go to Vaikuntha. Right? So it's only we see with Putana that she was given that parental position. So that was That was a more unique position. These other demons, then, they go back to that neutral position, or may move to servitorship, like that. But they'll be Vaikuntha devotees, generally. Yes? There was a guy from another religion.
No one can actually know God. He's not graspable. I don't need to get back to him, but just to get more context. He said he's not actually graspable.
So then what's his problem? Why does he have to yell at us?
You guys are pretending as if you know him and you're taking his name and you're dancing and
Was he Jewish? Islamic. So they don't first thing in the morning sit there and chant God's names on a loudspeaker at the top of their lungs. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what's his problem? Their scriptures say to do that. Everybody says to do that. So we're doing that. What's the problem?
Yeah, we're just saying that taking God's name is not actually that conceivable. And then you guys
but the point is they have 99 names of God anyway, and they are always chanting them. So, you know what I'm saying? The point is he can't grasp, then okay, then fine. But why does he have to say no one else can grasp? You know what I'm saying? So makes sense? Yeah, so don't worry about it. Yeah? Yes?
You said about Brahman, right?
About Brahman.
It might be educated on that, so this Brahman, is it equals to Brahmachari? Is it similar
Yes.
to rays of sunshine? It's like ray of sunshine?
Yes, yes.
So I have heard that once you go into Brahmachari, it's called spiritual suicide. So once you go there, you kind of like stay there in limbo, but then you fall back into material.
Yes, that's what we explained. Because we're talking about the demons who were killed by the Lord, who were inimical towards the Lord, you know, like Kamsa and Shishupal and these wallas. Okay? So they will go to the Brahman because they're killed by the Lord, so they're purified. So then being freed from all material contamination, then where does that situate you? In the neutral position, which is in the Brahman. No? It's in between the material world and the spiritual world. But because they've been killed by the Lord, then remembrance of the Lord in that Brahman position, then they'll be able to tell the difference between that and the material. Just like the four Kumaras, right, when they smelled the tulsi of the lotus feet of the Lord, they could tell the difference between material smell and spiritual smell. So then, being attracted by spirituals, because there's nothing material to hold you back, then they'll move forward and go to the spiritual world. Okay? Yeah, but that's only for the demons who are killed by Krishna. So, therefore, the acharyas don't recommend it as a process of sadhana to try to, I'm going to be the biggest demon and then get killed by the Lord, and that way I'll go to Vaikuntha. Yeah, so it doesn't seem to be an easy one, right? Because some of these, they spend lifetimes getting to that position. So, yeah, so you really have to work at it. That's there, but don't try to be a demon to, either. So you don't want to be a demon, you don't want to go to the Brahmajyoti. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. The members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness invite the Society's members and supporters to dine with them when they hold love feasts in their branches every Sunday. Many interested people come to honor prasadam, and whenever possible, they invite members of the Society to their homes and feed them sumptuously with prasad. In this way, both the members of the society and the general public are benefited. Right, so we have this natural, back in, as we said, the bhukte bojayate, that offering prasad, receiving prasad like this. So then the centers, or those who are preaching Krishna consciousness, they'll be making arrangements distributing prasad, and then those who are amongst those who are honoring prasad, then they may invite the devotees to their place, and this way you have both these aspects. People should not give up the company. People should give up the company of so-called yogis, jnanis, karmis, and philanthropists, because their association can benefit no one. If one really wants to attain the goal of human life, he should associate with devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement, because it is the only movement that teaches one how to develop love of God. Religion is the special function of human society, and it constitutes the distinction between human society and animal society. Animal society has no church, mosque, or religious system. In all parts of the world, however downtrodden human society may be, there is some system of religion. Even tribal aborigines in the jungles also have a system of religion. When a religious system develops and turns into love of God, it is successful. As stated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 126, Savaipum samparo dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahaituk yapatrihata yayatma suprasidhati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So you have dharma, all these aspects of human society in which you are acknowledging God's laws. That's what makes it religion. Is you're acknowledging the Supreme Lord's laws. So that's how you can actually tell, is it actually a religion or not. Is that there's the inherent laws of the Lord. One acknowledges that, one accepts that, one tries to practice that. That will then bring one to that will bring one forward, that will elevate. Now, of all these various religious aspects that you can perform, that which will develop love for God, that is perfect. That's what one is trying to do. That's the purpose of religion. And in doing that, one wants to be free from karma and jnana. So that will mean the practices that are there in the religion should be trying to cultivate that. So that's where technically you'll see the differences in religion, is how far do they want to take the religious process? Do they want to take it up to developing love for God? And in doing so, do they want to remove the obstacles of being distracted by fruitive work and the desire for liberation? So that's where you see is that in the Vedic system, and then of the Vedic system, the Vaishnava system, that aspect brings out the most complete form of religion. So many are being practiced, but it's being thought these are all different religions. No, they're just different aspects of one religion. Because there's only one God, so there can only be one religion. But within that, then there's so many details on what it is you want from God. So most people are interested in going to heaven. So that's not free from karma and jnana. And it's not even specifically, they talk about heaven. It's not necessarily they're talking about developing love for God. So that's going to be on one's accepting the laws of the Lord, following the Lord, trying to do good things. But at the same time, as one's only interested in elevating himself to the heavenly planets. So it means one's situated very nicely in the interest of simply karma, right? But good karma. Somebody says, now if somebody's interested to go farther than that, then that takes them farther. But the point is what is there? Where's the definitions, where the practices to see that purification, that understanding is there. So the Vedic literatures, they give that complete understanding. Right? And then with the comments of the acharyas, then you get the fine points of how. Now, where you're going to situate yourself. You come to that point of love of God, where to situate yourself in the spiritual world. So that's then the fineness that's there. Does that make sense? So it's not that there's different religions. Technically, the process is the same. You can say, because even within the Vedic, you have so many religious processes. So someone's more into austerity, someone's more into prayer, someone's more into study, someone's more into the preaching, someone's more into the association. So these are all different religious aspects. So you can call them all religions, but they're all part of that greater religion on that you have the singular God at one end of the process, and you have Yamaraj and his, various, resorts, where you can spend, so much of your time being hosted by the Yamadutas. Yeah. So this is what you're dealing with. So the different aspects of religion, then they are emphasizing different parts because they have different goals that they want. Does that make sense? So because of that, then it'll have that flavor. Does that make sense? Let us say in a meal, you have a meal, so then you have some salad, and then you have some main things, and you have some sweets, like this. So now if you only eat salad, then you're not defined by the full meal. Right? You're defined by the salad, so then you're known as someone who eats raw food. Now let's say if you're someone who just eats the sweets, then you're defined as a kid, because only they can make a meal out of just sweets. You understand? So then you're defined by what you eat when you're dealing with that. So in the same way as what aspects of the religious process that you use and what your goals are in practicing them, that's what defines. Therefore we'll say, okay, there's this religion or that religion and that. But technically it just means they're just following that part of it. It's not something separate technically. Right? Does that make sense? Like someone, means in the cooking process you have so much, you have so many functions. And if someone just performs a particular function, they're only known by that. Does that make sense? If someone only serves prasad, right? Then they're known as, as a waiter, like this. Does that make sense? Someone only helps prepare in the kitchen. They're a kitchen assistant. Or someone only does marketing. Then they're known by that. You know what I'm saying? They only like to honor prasad. Then they have their own names, depending upon, what is the particular sophistication or not of the particular individual. You understand? But it's all part of the one process, you can say, of cooking and eating and that. So there's one process of going back to Godhead, and people are only interested in certain parts of it. So then they're known by that. Does that make sense? That's just how people are identified. By their is that? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So that way you don't really have the different aspects. So the Krishna conscious movement, then that's given by Lord Chaitanya. It's the only one that's actually teaching love of God. That's the whole point. So within that, then you'll have the four sampradayas. They're all teaching that. But then within that, then who is following Lord Chaitanya, then they're interested in developing love of God in the relationship in Vrindavan, in Braj. So that makes the uniqueness. But otherwise, they're all teaching how to develop love of God. Others sometimes talk about it, but it's not the focus. There's not a process for. It's just like if we say to those of the Abrahamic religion, okay, then if they agree to the point of developing love for God as a good thing, then, it's not a problem for them to actually appreciate that. But then if you ask, okay, then what's your process to do that? That's then where you'll start to see the weakness in their practice or understanding, because they don't have anything specific for doing that. But Lord Chaitanya has given that. The Vaishnava Acharyas have given that. Right? So they'll do some things, they'll have the sentiment, but it doesn't have that scientific process. So that's why I said it's just the only one that teaches how to do it. Other ones may talk about it and appreciate it, but they don't teach you how to do it. Does that make sense? So it's not saying that they don't have the concept, but they don't teach you how to do it. Does that make sense? Yeah. If the members of human society actually want peace of mind, tranquility, and friendly relations between men and between nations, they must follow the Krishna-conscious system of religion, by which they can develop their dormant love for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as people do so, their minds will immediately be filled with peace and tranquility. And because if one's God-conscious, then what is not about Krishna? What is to cause anxiety? Anxiety is whenever there's going to be fear. Fear means you don't know what's going to happen. Right? Not knowing it's going to happen is then just the way the material world's organized. But if one's Krishna conscious, then one's not worried about the energy because you know it's controlled by Krishna, so you can always be Krishna conscious despite what the situation is. But if we're attached to a particular situation, then naturally there's going to be, that fear can come up from that aspect, is that will be lost or changed. But the material world means change. Right? And the change here doesn't mean that it's consistent with the consciousness of the living entity. Right? In the spiritual world, then change there, the variety there is consistent. You're the same person eternally, and these changes go on. It doesn't actually change your position or relationship with the Lord. But here, you change things. It changes your position, your identity, your relationships. Everything changes. That's why then, on one sense, we want change, and in another sense, we don't want change. So that's a problem. Yeah.
What about the fear of disaster?
The fear of disaster. So you don't read newspapers and stuff, right? Yeah?
To be in one.
To be one.
To be in one.
To be in one.
Yeah, fear of being in a disaster.
Not a newspaper.
Reading is,
You have a fear of being in a newspaper that talks about disasters, or you're worried about the disaster itself?
newspaper is reading someone else's problems, but fear of
No, but I'm saying if you're a fear of disasters, because that's what the news is about. It's, how you say, technically news of fresh disasters. That's how you say, as stated by the members of Beyond the Fringe. Okay? So, but the point is you're already in the material world. Isn't that already a disaster? So then, you've already put yourself in the bad situation. So if there's, a little variety within that, then, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're already stranded on a deserted island, sitting under the lone coconut tree, and then if a coconut drops on your head, that's just a detail within an already existing disaster. Yeah? Yes? No? Okay. Yes, so that peace and tranquility comes by being Krishna conscious. So where we're Krishna conscious, we find things are very nice, and where we're not Krishna conscious, that's where we'll find less peace and less tranquility. So it's just a matter of, as that develops, then that can be there, that all aspects of one's life can be there. Yeah. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur warns all devotees engaged in broadcasting the Krishna consciousness movement not to speak to the impersonalists or Mayavadis, who are always determined to oppose such theistic movements. The world is full of Mayavadis and atheists, and the political parties of the world take advantage of Mayavad and other atheistic philosophies to promote materialism. Sometimes they even back a strong party to oppose the Krishna consciousness movement. The Mayavadis and other atheists do not want the Krishna consciousness movement to develop because it educates people in God consciousness. Such is the policy of the atheists. There is no benefit in feeding a snake milk and bananas because the snake will never be satisfied. On the contrary, by taking milk and bananas, the snake simply becomes more poisonous. Kevalam visha vardhanam. If a snake is given milk to drink, its poison simply increases. Right, yeah. For a similar reason, we should not disclose our minds to the serpent Mayavadis and Karmis. Such disclosures will never help. It is best to completely avoid associating with them and never ask them about anything confidential, because they cannot give any good advice. Because remember, the verse is about the confidentially discussing and hearing from others. So that's not done in this kind of association, because they don't have anything, they can't actually add anything for Krishna consciousness. That's not their position. See, because if you're God conscious, that means then you have to regulate your life and bring it in line with what would be pleasing to Krishna. And so if you're interested in sense gratification, then that's not a good proposal. Because then our ideas, our mental speculation on enjoying means that there's the options that I could do whatever I want. Not that you ever can or will, but at least the option is there. And so if you bring in the aspect of God consciousness, means then one has to regulate the life and bring it in line with Krishna consciousness. So for the materialists, since they can't appreciate the taste in Krishna consciousness or the benefit, then they think that they're losing something. So that's why then they're going to oppose. Right? And then the Mayavadis also, on top of that, they're not interested in being God conscious, they want to be God. You know, so other than meditating on their self and in this way being God conscious, then that's okay. If you told them that's, you know, what to do, they'd be fine with that. But since it means God means someone else other than them, then they're not very impressed with the process. Like that. Yeah? Nor should we extend invitations to Mayavadis and atheists or accept their invitations. For by such intimate intermingling we may become affected by their atheistic mentality. Sangat sanjayate kama. It is the negative injunction of this verse that we should refrain from giving anything to or accepting anything from the Mayavadis and atheists. Right? So in this verse it's presenting the positive, but that means that it infers the negative. Sometimes it develops the negative, but it's inferring the positive. Just like how you say, don't offend the devotees who are dedicated their life to preaching Krishna consciousness. So, but it infers, therefore, one should be respectful towards and take advantage of the association. So this verse is a positive, and so it refers the negative. Yes.
Related to that point, the positive aspect of it, that we should, the Prabhupada was saying that we invite people to the temple for the love feast.
Mm-hmm.
And people also invite devotees to their homes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes devotees would be concerned about the standards in their home. At least in Europe, it was always a concern, even in the temples, the cook was initiated or second initiated.
Mm-hmm.
Devotees were leaving because the cook was not second initiated.
Oh, okay.
And they practiced that day.
I see.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
I mean, it's nice to have a standard and be conscious of these things, but at the same time, as you have the interaction, so if there's that sincerity in that aspect there, then it's a good thing. But otherwise, if it's somebody who doesn't know, doesn't have any standards, then that they want you to come to their house and do a program, then you can always even just take prasad there. So you have the whole program and they're involved and everything like that, if it's really not a good scenario. But otherwise, then, for the preaching, these aspects are there. Is that you go, because there's that sincerity there, then that's the purifying element. If it's just a matter of prestige or some other mundane aspect, then that's not very important. Then there's no need to go and stuff like that. But if there's that sincerity, then it will have something. But as something to work towards, then having all the devotees advancing in Krishna consciousness and therefore nicely situated, so then one could have then, with time, a standard as such. It's something to work towards. But if you don't have such devotees, then what can you do? And then you can always ask those who are second initiated that won't eat from those who are not second initiated if they would like to cook the breakfast. Because that's also an option. If it should only be second initiated devotees, then great. So then would they like to do the cooking? Yes.
I have a question about understanding analogies used in Vedas.
Right.
Prabhupada quotes the example of the snake drinking milk.
Right.
So do we need to understand the logic of it? Because I looked it up and it says snakes, they don't drink milk. So is it a Vedic reference? How does that Sorry?
It means,
For example, we need to...
it's just like, I say, in India they do drink milk. It's a problem sometimes. Sometimes they come up and actually drink milk from the cows. And it's bad. They get kind of like a rash or something from it, the cows. So it does happen. And if you give them a banana, they'll swallow it whole. They're into it, yeah. So maybe it's just the cobras and those kind of snakes over there. Maybe over here the...
They drink in extreme heat, like there's nothing else to drink, and cobras will drink milk. And there's an Indian festival when they make cobras drink publicly, and they keep them without drinking for days to make them thirsty. But that's not the point.
Yeah, it's not the point, yeah. Point is you make arrangements for them to drink milk. Whether that means you have to make them fast or not, that's another thing. But no, but the point is you're giving milk and bananas, which is a nice thing. That combination is very nice. They're both considered auspicious. They're both havishyas. So there are things to offer in sacrifice, so it's a nice thing. So the point is giving something nice to a snake, it'll only make them more envious, just like Duryodhana. You make nice arrangements for him, he's part of the family, so he's part of the whole scene with the Pandavas, but it just makes him more envious. That's the whole point. And then if you take it back in time, the snakes are poisonous because then their, their forefathers, then they drank the, drops of the Kalakuta poison that, Shiva dropped while he was drinking. And where did that poison come from? The ocean of milk. So in other words, in the element of milk, there's always, in nectar, there's always something that's there, some poison, so that has to be removed. So their poison originally came from milk, so it's not that so it shouldn't be a bewilderment that milk can therefore then create poison. Because I think it's a kind of protein anyway, and so milk's high in protein, so like that kind of, if one needs to get down to, grub around down in that level, but no, because they're part of something that goes on. Sometimes even the Shastras reveal things that we don't even know. People don't know. Like Shastras will mention about like when there's storms and the lightning and it's very close and all that. Lions will come out of their cave and roar back at them. Things like that. We don't know about that, but Shastra will mention. Or how you say, that dogs actually, when they see humans talking, they want to talk. That's why sometimes when you're talking, they start to do something. They do stuff like that. They just, the concept, they see that. Or you know. So these different things are, or that donkeys, when they bray, they actually, in their mind, they're singing poetry. But and so that they get really bewildered that people are telling them to be quiet, because there's a, hey, come on, it's poetry here. What's the, you know. So there's certain things that we won't even know because they're created that way. Then it's mentioned in the scriptures. So then the analogies actually, if they're analyzed nicely, they work very well. But like you said, the context of what we're used to is not there. And also you also have different aspects of those who are looking at it, who are not practitioners in a certain area. Sometimes their approach to something is not necessarily an ideal. You know, they don't know how to categorize and something. So then their approach to it doesn't necessarily represent the practice itself, because it'll have their own perspective. I remember seeing this, this studies on, I think it was like Western musicologists, professors in music and all that, and coming to India and then studying Indian music to, see the uniqueness of it. But they'll do stuff like sit there and do tests on when the person starts the the performance, what they use is the bass note, what's their saw. So then they'll try to fix it according to the Western scale. And then they'll say, well, this one uses, starts at this, someone else does here, this one's half note off, this one actually does it 2 notes higher, this one does it lower. And in this, they think that that's their approach to understanding Indian music. But they haven't actually caught the point at all. It doesn't matter where you start from, then that's when all the proportions of the intonations between the notes are. So you start anywhere, but they're thinking that that's the important thing.
It's the same in Europe until less than 100 years ago. There was a committee that fixed it.
Oh, okay.
Committee in London.
Oh, okay.
So that's where that's going to be middle C.
Oh, okay, so before that.
Everyone's using the same reference point.
Ah, okay.
Mozart was probably writing.
Okay.
What was middle C was somewhere else.
Okay, so just wherever they put it, that was the proportion. So they're doing the same.
Yeah, each instrument, each orchestra was playing a different.
Okay, so they would just pick a note, and then everyone would adjust to that, and then they would start. Yeah, I guess it's like when you, the person, whoever's leading them, they sing the note or blow the pitch pipe, and then everybody takes that, and then they start from there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Does that make sense? So, or sometimes they may approach these things, but they come up with the funniest parts. Because I remember once I was talking to one, classical musician, and I was asking him some questions, and at some point he just asked, "Where did you get this stuff from?" Because it's so far away from actually the reality of the Indian musical system. And so I mentioned I had read it in some books and like this and that, and she said, yes, it's this, it says that they do studies of these things, but they themselves aren't musicians, so they don't actually know. So they just, their understanding of it, they try to give some words to it and definitions and everything like that. So because it's a Vedic thing. I've heard it discussed, sometimes the Goshas mention that the snakes will come sometimes and drink the milk from the cows, and then the cow will get, you can't milk them for some days and that, because they get a rash, and you have to put medicine and all that. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
The other great metaphor that doesn't mean anything to us is just as dull metal is turned into gold by an alchemical process, in the same way by pancreatic initiation, an unqualified person becomes the most qualified bachelor.
Yes.
And so in the Vedic context, it would make sense that to us, that experience of dull metal being turned into gold.
Yeah. Especially when the alchemists were trying that for a long time. And even if they were successful, you're not going to hear about it, because then they'll be working in somebody's laboratory and making lots of gold. So, yeah, no, that's the thing. The Vedic, they're so perfect because they actually work in the thing. But then the problem is the cultural context. Sometimes you can't. So we'll use the example and then we'll explain it. So you see, Prabhupada, for many, just by saying it, then it, like if you're in a particular culture and you're trying to make a point and you use the local saying, then just saying that they understand. But Prabhupada will say it and explain it. So then you can, so if at some point it does make sense, then that part, and then yeah. Yeah, so many things, like how you say examples that talk about a mother and a father, right? So that's what's that? It's like, yeah. So in the modern context, and then if it doesn't work out, then I guess then you have an advantage, because the petri dish can't take you to court. So. Oh, okay. I'll find it.
We have expert legal advice.
Okay, yeah, they'll find a way. How you say the company that manufactured the petri dish? Okay, the guy that sold him the sand that he made it out of. We'll get somebody. Yes. No. It is the negative injunction of this verse that we should refrain from giving anything to or accepting anything from the Mayavadis and atheists. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also warned, Vishayira ana kaile dushtam hoyman. When one eats food prepared by worldly people, one's mind becomes wicked, right? Because the consciousness comes in that, right? So then by eating that consciousness, so if their consciousness is if they're Mayavadis and atheists, then it's already wicked. So then by eating from them, then you get that same effect. So that's why then it's avoided. Yeah, like I think it's, even sometimes when Prabhupada was traveling, and people would give, I think I've heard of more than one, but one I can remember. Some gentleman gave, when he was traveling, I think in Kenya, and he stayed at their house, and they gave a decent donation. But I think, though, that family, their business was alcohol. And so Prabhupada didn't keep the donation himself and then use it for various things. He just gave it to the deities. So then you have that aspect also. So even you're saying that you can say, but they're giving, they'll get benefit. But are we able to give that benefit? So then that's just given it. He just put it in the deity's hundi, like that. So then he would do that sometimes. I've heard of other occasions also, but I don't remember details. I only remember that one. Yes.
I was in the class once. I think Krsna said that Prabhupada was in Mumbai, and one wealthy industrialist came. He was producing glass. He was one of the main glass producers in India.
Okay.
But he was involved in a lot of corruption.
Okay.
And he came to Prabhupada, and he wanted to give him information in Prabhupada's hands, and Prabhupada asked him to go and put it into hundi. And when he left, Prabhupada said, I don't want to take money from my teeth.
Yeah.
And he
Okay.
asked him to go and give it to the deity directly.
Okay. Yeah. So like that, because one is affected. Whoever it's first given to, then that's there. Who they give it to, they don't, then it's purified. Does that make sense? Like, something's given to one Brahmin, and that reaction will go to that Brahmin. When that Brahmin gives it to the next Brahmin, it doesn't carry that. like that. So in this case, then either, you give it to the deities because you won't use it, or in this case, if it's more, you just give it directly, have them give it directly. So when people come, so many people come, they give nice things to the deities, then there's not a problem, because you can't say, oh, it's this and that, because it's for Krishna. Krishna doesn't get karma. So then it's a nice thing. Okay, so that's a further example. Yeah, so it's just not the practice. Like that.
Brahmacharis go out for a collection, and then they bring it back to the lot.
Okay.
They say, how was the collection? You're such, we collected so much. Okay, so offer it to the guru, and they didn't return this. They didn't give the same amount that they said they had collected. So then he said, what happened to the rest? And they said, oh, we have some other, someone had some other expenses. This is not that handed over. Maybe it was even Bhakti said, that's not so. And so then he's like, okay, he gives what he had kept back for expenses, and then the money was taken, and then okay, so here's for your expenses. And then the brahmachari was kind of questioning, well, why do we have to do that?
Mm-hmm.
He says, because when you give it to your spiritual master, it's purified. So you use it for your expenses. Otherwise, you're taking the karmas.
Right. Yeah, because as brahmacharis, they're not actually working for themselves. So anything that they raise, they won't get a reaction for, because it goes to the guru. But then if they take on the side, then they'll, yeah, good point. Yeah. So it's very, they say, the laws of how the karma and consciousness is transferred. And it's also, you see in India that they'll, those things that have been, there's a difference in things that are considered cooked and not cooked. That doesn't mean raw. It means there's cooked and not cooked, and then there's raw. So in the West, uncooked means raw. But in Vedic, uncooked means it's not cooked in ghee or oil. Like a chapati is cooked dry, and then you put ghee on it. So that's considered technically uncooked. Like that. So then, but let's say like a paratha or a puri, that's cooked. Like that. Oh, really? They also have that. That's far, huh?
Yeah, your mother fasts and she has uncooked food and has no oil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting how much actually the Vedic tradition is there in the world that's just been lost quite recently. Like you were saying about the music or different things. Just people don't know about it, but it was these things were known before. So uncooked food, it carries more karma than cooked. Cooked just carries consciousness, and uncooked carries consciousness and karma. When you pay for something, then that removes karma, but the consciousness remains. So in anything you eat, consciousness you're going to get. Like that. And so then if it's a gift, then karma comes with it. If you pay for it, then it doesn't. Like you go to a restaurant, then because you pay, then the karma aspect is removed, but the consciousness aspect remains. Like that. So, yeah.
I heard this story of Prabhupada talking about cooking and eating in people's homes. I heard a story of Prabhupada taking prasad with his disciples in someone's home, and then what is the problem with this garlic and the sabji? Robert's mother, isn't it? Yes, there is. The mother isn't.
Yeah, there was just that arrangement of the house and things like that. So it was not that you know it's there. It's supposed to be not that, but then you find out it's that, so you don't want to upset the people like that. So you just have to see the situation. That doesn't make that the garlic's okay. It just means that it wasn't supposed to be there. And somehow, generally people know that when they're feeding sadhus, but somehow or another they didn't. So then, yeah.
So
Yeah.
their service.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because if the attitude's right, then it's not a problem. If there's that ego there, that's then where you draw the line. So when the sincerity's there, that purifies it. Like there's the discussion between the demigods, like that. Manu mentions this, that the demigods are discussing what is the nature of, let's say we have a, a Brahmin that doesn't have faith, and we have a banker who does have faith. You know, the interesting part is nowadays we consider bankers very, it's a very prestigious position, but in the Vedic system, bankers aren't seen in a great light, like that. So then the demigods can't figure it out. And so then they go to Lord Brahma and then place the question before him. And so then and he asked what was their conclusion, and their understanding was well, they're equal, because they both have a positive and a negative, so it cancels everything out. So then Lord Brahma says it's improper to call something that's unequal equal. So the Ursur with faith is actually in a better position than the Brahmin with no faith, because it's actually faith is the driving thing. If you have faith, that's what makes everything work and is elevated. Without faith, then nothing can be accomplished. So then like that. So if they have that faith, they have that mood and all that, then so many things is very simple, and it's not a problem. But if the faith is lacking, then you want to avoid these situations. Like that. So that's where it is. It's not that, it's not about the quality of the food, it's about the quality of the consciousness of the person. So, yeah, right. Yeah. Unless one is very advanced, he is unable to utilize everyone's contribution to further the Krishna consciousness movement. And so we see also here Prabhupada is, but at the same time he's setting example. Therefore, on principle, one should not accept charity from the Mayavadis or atheists. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has forbidden devotees to associate even with ordinary men who are too addicted to material sense gratification. Because whatever someone values, that's what they're going to talk about, that's going to be their mood, and then to accept things from them, it'll take that consciousness, so then one will be burdened with that interest in material pursuance or that atheistic principle. So that's why then one is careful. The conclusion is that we should always keep company with devotees, observe the regulated devotional principles, follow in the footsteps of the acharyas, in full obedience carry out the orders of the spiritual master. In this way we shall be able to develop our devotional service and dormant Krishna consciousness. The devotee who is neither a neophyte nor a Mahabhagavat, a greatly advanced devotee, but is within the middle status of devotional service, is expected to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, make friends with the devotees, show favor to the ignorant, and reject the jealous and demoniac. In this verse, there is a brief mention of the process of making loving transactions with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and making friends with the devotees. According to the Dadati principle, an advanced devotee is supposed to spend at least 50% of his income on the service of the Lord and his devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami has set such an example in his life. When he decided to retire, he distributed 50% of his life's earnings to Krishna's service and 25% to his relatives, and kept 25% for personal emergencies. This example should be followed by all devotees. Whatever one's income, 50% should be spent on behalf of Krishna and his devotees, and this will fulfill the demands of Dadati. In the next verse, Srila Rupa Goswami informs us what kind of Vaishnava should be selected as a friend and how Vaishnavas should be served. Right? So now he's made the point that with Vaishnavas, then you should have these loving exchanges. Right? So that's the principle. Like that. So then the Madhyama, then they have that affection for the Supreme Lord. Friends with the devotees, favor the ignorant, and reject the jealous and demoniac. So this principle of staying away from those who are or being indifferent towards those who are inimical to Krishna consciousness. In other words, one doesn't have any dealings with them, because what's the basis? Then it's not, oh, well, that's not an advanced program. That is the advanced position. The neophyte may not make that distinction. And the Uttama sees everybody connected to Krishna anyway, so they're not going to have any problem with it. Right? And so the Madhyama makes that distinction, because then you get the proper, you see what's proper association, what's not. So then it's so it's advantageous. Yeah. Okay. Text 5. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshati chet pranatibhis cha bhajantam isham. Shushushaya bhajana vigyam ananyamanya nindadi shunya hridam ipshita sangalabdhya. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Purport. In order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way, according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with three types of devotees: the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within the mind as a Kanishta Vaishnava. Remember, we were going by in a rickshaw once, and there was this, one of the elder senior Gaudiya sannyasis going in a rickshaw the other way, just happened to be going at the same time. And as we offered, respects like this, and he just kind of very slightly, and then who I was with, and he said, made the comment, yes, exactly as it says in, I say, Upadesha Amrita, right? It's just, how you saying, offering that respect. So just that slight acknowledgement that, yes, that we're chanting the holy name and stuff. So it was very interesting, yeah. A Madhyama Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyama Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. The Uttama Adhikari, or highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. And Uttama Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean, and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Mahabhagavata, or perfect Vaishnava, are most desirable. One should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated in the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. Oh, and is interested. Okay. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 11.247. Acharyayam eva haraye pujam ya shraddhaye hate. Natad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhaktav prakritas smritaha. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave towards devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta or a kanishta adhikari. Right? So, because we saw before, it mentioned here about the Madhyama, who has undergone spiritual initiation and who is engaged in worshipping the deity. But in here, then, it's connecting the deity worship with the kanista. So then, here, then, we're seeing the differences is that what makes the difference then technically between the kanista and the madhyama, because then for the kanista to worship the deity, then they would have second initiation. So then this aspect of deity worship seems to be mentioned in both. So we see the differences is that those who behave properly towards the devotees, that identifies them as a madhyamadikari, and those who don't, that identifies them as a neophyte. But Prabhupada's original standard was second initiated devotee should be on that level where they are a preacher and everything like that. So that was the original standard. I remember when the devotees in 73, senior devotees, mentioning that before, when they got initiated in that, the standard to get first was you had to be able to lead all the temple kirtans. Like that, you had to know how to do the deity worship, because in those days, then, what was the technique of doing that? How to give a class and how to cook a Sunday feast. So in other words, basically you could run a full program yourself. Then you got first initiation. Like that. Then you're qualified, because the whole point is now you're a devotee, now you go out and preach in that. And then second was then that. So it's just, so we can see is that what were the concept of second in those days. So I remember that anybody who was second, they were very much respected. They were Brahmins. So nowadays, much of the time, the respect we show sannyasis, on a good day, right? Then that's what was shown to Brahmins, like that. And then sannyasis, that was another thing. And then it's just yeah. One therefore has to raise himself from the position of Kanista Adhikari to the platform of Madhyamadikari. Right, so where it says one has to means we have to make the endeavor. In other words, getting from the neophyte to the Madhyama, that we can do by our, means it's not that by our endeavor it's happening. It's because we're making the endeavor, Krishna being pleased, then we come to that platform. But from the Madhyama to the Uttam platform, that's simply by Krishna's mercy. So when one is steady in devotional service, one's performing devotional service, Krishna being pleased, then one advances to that position. So it's not a separate conscious endeavor to try to come to that platform, like it is to try to get from the neophyte to the Madhyama platform. Like that.
Is there a difference between pure devotional service and pure unalloyed devotional service?
Is there a difference between the two? Between pure devotional service and pure unalloyed? In one sense, pure devotional service is the general category. So you can call pure unalloyed devotional service and pure devotional service as pure devotional service. So generally when we see we're talking about pure devotional service, what it means is that the definition is free from karma and jnana. Right? So it's conscious of Krishna in a favorable way, free from karma and jnana. That makes it pure devotional service. Right? So now pure unalloyed, that's a quality of braj. It just means that it's, even within the spiritual context, there's no interest for any benefit from that. So even it's so, in Vaikuntha it's free from karma and jnana, so it's pure devotional service. So everyone in the spiritual world is functioning on pure devotional service. But then there's the aspect that goes beyond that. Even liberation is not of interest. Though we're talking about spiritual, we're not talking about merging into the Lord. So that's missing in pure unalloyed devotional service. So that's what makes the Braja Bhakti unique. Does that make sense? Yeah. The Madhyamadikari is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.246 in this way. Ishvare tad adhineshu balisheshu dvishatasu dvishatsu cha prema maitri kripo peksha ya karoti sam madhyama. The Madhyamadikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love. makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature. Right, so the highest object of love means there may be so many objects of love, but he's the highest object. So then that puts him apart. Otherwise, because the neophyte may get distracted by other objects of love and then forget about this supreme object. Like that. This is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. Therefore, so this Madhyama platform is actually the best platform. So even as a practice, as a culture, then everybody within the practice of devotional service functions as the Madhyama. Even if the consciousness still is a neophyte, they perform the activities of a Madhyama. So they preach. And then the Uttamadhikaris, they also perform the activities of a Madhyama. So it's as Prabhupada said, this is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. So it's the common platform. Therefore, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has advised us how to treat various devotees. We can see from practical experience that there are different types of Vaishnavas. The Prakrita Sahajiyas generally chant the Hare Krishna mantra, yet they are attached to women, money, and intoxication. Although such persons may chant the holy name of the Lord, they are not yet properly purified. Such people should be respected within one's mind, but their association should be avoided. Those who are innocent but simply carried away by bad association should be shown favor if they are eager to receive proper instructions from pure devotees. But those neophyte devotees who are actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master and are seriously engaged in carrying out the orders of the spiritual master should be offered respectful obeisances. Yeah, so we just see as, in other words, the commitment to Krishna consciousness is then what's defining how one is to be able to appreciate the Lord and the devotees, make that as there, and that culture of interacting properly with devotees. That's what then makes the whole thing work nicely. If that's missing, then to that degree that's missing, it means the lower it is. To the degree that's there, that means the more advanced it is. In this Krishna consciousness movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Everyone is invited to join this movement, sit with us, take prasadam, and hear about Krishna. When we see that someone is actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. When a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be accepted immediately as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. Out of many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed numbers of rounds and japa beads, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnava should be accepted as an Uttamadhikari, a highly advanced devotee, and his association should always be sought. The process by which a devotee becomes attached to Krishna is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila 4:192. Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpan. Se kale Krishna tare kare atma sam. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. Diksha spirit, so we can see is that the process of Diksha is actually the consciousness is there. And accepting that order, accepting and following that, that's what makes the process of Diksha. That's the working point. There's the ritual, of course, and the practices, but the actual central point is that surrender to the Lord, surrender to that process, having that faith in Krishna and in the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas. That's actually what you're trying to do. Son? Yeah. Yes.
Maharaj, you mentioned that both a Kanishka and a Madhyama can be worshipping the deity, but what separates them is that a Kanishka doesn't know how to deal or doesn't deal properly with the deity.
Yes. Yeah. Means they both are dealing with faith with the deity, so they have faith in the deity, but it's just the neophyte won't have faith so much in the devotees also. And so the Madhyama will have faith in the Lord and the devotees, while the neophyte will tend in the Lord, but not necessarily the devotees. Maybe specific devotees, but not as a group.
So how about if it's the other way around? How about if devotees deal very well with devotees, but they're not initiated, they're not worshipping the deity? Would they be considered a Krsna, or?
The point is that in here is that as soon as that mood is there, then they're respected. So then one deals properly. Okay, so end here. Jai Srila Rupa Gosvami Pada ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.